Welcome to one of my videos. My name is Ash Borland. I am a business coach for mortgage brokers, helping all mortgage professionals simplify success from getting into the industry all the way up to seven-figure businesses. And in today's video, we're actually going to be answering a question from a comment that was submitted by one of you. The question, the comment is on screen right now, but the actual question itself is, could you do a video about the best way to go about building a serious side business whilst in other employment? The goal being to have access to mortgage software and a range of lenders. So I've got the full comment on screen as well. So if you want to, you can pause it and read it at that point, because Zach here, who's put the comment in here, gives more context as to his situation, being that he has 4 kids, he's got a mortgage, he works in full-time employment, and he wants to do this on a side hustle. So I have got some notes here. Everything is all written down. I've just sat here prepping this before, which is what try to do for all these videos, especially with the ones that are questions. I'm going to go through my own kind of thought process around doing that, going self-employed and making it work as a serious side business. So first point that I wrote down here, it's very hard to go as a side hustle on your own in this industry. The reason why I want to say that is I think that many people think with mortgages, there's just this, it's a really nice side hustle that's going to make you a really decent income, because mortgage brokers can make a lot of money. It's a very lucrative industry. You can make 6 figures as an advisor quite easily. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who'd been in the industry for about a year and they were making 250,000, and that was on a 50-50 split in the business they were writing. They were absolute powerhouse, but you can get some really good stuff. Now they were full-time, but to make it work part-time, very hard. Okay, it's very hard. And what I would say to anybody who's thinking about going part-time, which I completely get, by the way, there's scenarios of it. If you're thinking about doing this part-time forever, it's probably not going to be the best thing to do. It's not a little side hustle to get rich quick scheme. It's a lot of work and a lot of upfront investment, both in time and in money, in order to make it work. So the first quote here is it's hard. And if you're not going to plan to eventually move to full-time, there are better side hustles out there. Now, let's move on to the next one, which is that many networks, so networks and firms under those, but let's say networks specifically. Now, networks are people that you would go to that would provide you with the software and the access to the lenders, unless you go DA, which you wouldn't be able to do at this point right now. Many of them will not take people on unless they're earning a certain amount of income. This is a newer thing that's come over the last year or two. I've seen it where some of the larger networks have a minimum threshold of the income they're expecting you to write. And if you don't hit that income level, they're going to get rid of you. Some of these I've seen it's 30,000 gross. So you make 30,000 overall before they take their cuts. Some of them I've seen is 50,000. The lowest I've seen is 30,000. So that's the lowest one I've seen so far. And this is pretty relatively new. The reason being is that all these networks it's regulation, it's compliant. They're trying to get rid of the side hustle people who are doing it as lifestyle business, as like people who maybe are semi-retired, doing 2 mortgages a month, 1 mortgage a month, and happy to do a bit of insurance, and they're happy to make 30 grand a year or 28 grand a year or 25 grand a year, but maybe work 1 day a week, which this job can absolutely do. But the networks themselves are not all of them. There are some networks out that will do this. There are some firms that are DA that will absolutely allow it, but it's getting harder and harder to find people who will take you with that, because it's just not worth the principal's time, the person at the network or the person at the firm itself, to take you on. They're not going to make enough money from you. So that's just, I'm going through the cons before I actually say about how I would do it. And it is, the other thing I'd say about being like part-time is that it is long hours. You're going to have to work evenings. You're going to have to work weekends. You're going to sacrifice a lot away from your family. And there's going to be a mega steep learning curve. It's like a hockey stick learning curve. You're going to have to learn a lot. And in a part-time role, that's going to be very hard. Now, is it possible? Absolutely. I know people who've done it. All the people I know who've done it inevitably go full-time in the end. So that's just the one to address in the beginning of this video. Now, let's talk about how I would do it. So if I was going on my own, self-employed, and I was going off part-time, so self-employed part-time whilst also working alongside it, I've wrote a load of things down as to what I would do. Okay, so let's break that one down. So the first thing I would do is I would leverage what you have. So the hardest thing you're going to have is, well, there's many things you're going to have, but one of them is generating leads and generating awareness. If you've never done this before and now you're going to go into self-employed part-time whilst doing another job, everybody you know it isn't going to know you do mortgages. So you want to leverage social media and you want to leverage your personal accounts. They're your gold. So your Facebook account, and this is where many advisors or potential wannabe advisors and to-be advisors, trainee advisors go very wrong, is they set up a Facebook account, like a Facebook page, business page, and then wonder why no one really cares. What you want to do is you want to use your current personal account that has all the people who follow you, all the people who know you, they know and trust you already. That is easy pickings. That's where your business is going to be. It's friends and family at the beginning. And so leveraging your social media account and getting over the fact that you're going to have to say, look, I do mortgages now, and then and get on video and massively, don't just do images, video content, you massively hammer that. You will start to generate awareness, which is the whole aim of the game. So generating awareness is going to help you. You want to leverage social media, your current social media platforms, to massive effect. That's what it's all about, leveraging your current platforms. If you're not leveraging your current platforms, you're going to struggle. Now, this is my next point on this, you can start before you're qualified. So you can talk about completely unregulated things that are peripheral to mortgages while you're doing your CMAP. So start talking about property, start talking about things, not specific properties, but talk about like the home buying process, educating people on the home buying process, on what is needed. Go and Google it, go and use ChatGPT, what are the top questions about about buying a house, what are the top questions about the home buying process. Give me like all of these things you can make content on, because you don't need to be regulated in order to make content on those things. You only need to be regulated if you're going to give advice on them. You can talk about mortgages a long time before you actually advise on them. In fact, there are firms out there, I did this myself, right? I've done that many times. We weren't allowed to talk about mortgages at the time the firm I worked with when I first started doing social media when I was a broker. And we leveraged, I leveraged that to start talking about peripheral stuff that was fine to talk about. And that's how I generated leads at the beginning. So you can absolutely do that. So you want to start, I would say start before you're qualified, talking about things you can and want to talk about. All this stuff you're learning in your CMAP and in your CMAP handbooks, just talk about that stuff. Short 1-minute videos, talk about this thing. Did you know what a fixed rate is? Do you know what? All of this stuff is just getting your name out there. Now, the next thing I would do is approach small firms that have a shared vision and a shared value. You're most likely going to be better off approaching DA, which is directly authorized firms. If you approach a directly authorized firm, then there's a higher chance they're going to accept you because they won't have that minimum cap. So they won't have that minimum threshold of income you need to, income levels that the network have set on them. So a directly authorized person is probably the best way to do it. Now, what are the ways to spot a directly authorized person? Go onto the website of any of the local brokers near you, look at them, and if you scroll down to the bottom, it will say appointed representative of at the end, which is there an AR. When you go into a network, you become an AR, which is an appointed representative. And if this is an appointed representative of, and then it has a name you've never heard of, Openwork, Primus, HLP, then that means they're part of a network, which means there will be other restrictions on them, which isn't bad, but there will be other restrictions on them that will potentially limit them from taking on part-time advisors. It's not so much the part-time, they don't care about the part-time, it's the income levels. And also those people might be like, I can't be bothered to take on that responsibility. A DA firm, a directly authorized firm, they will say on their thing, it will be authorized by the FCA. And it will literally say, it'll pretty much say, it'll just say Joe Bloggs Mortgage Services is authorized directly by the FCA. And if you see that, that will mean they are DA, directly authorized. There's a better chance of a directly authorized firm taking you on. They're normally smaller, which is really positive. They have complete autonomy to decide what they do and don't want to do. So they have the decision to take that on or not. It's up to them. And so it can work in your favor. Some DA firms will be significantly more aggressive in what they want to do, and that's why they've gone DA, so they might not want you. But there are other firms out there that will be more lifestyle. They just want to be left alone, don't want to do things on their own, and they don't have to report to anybody other than the FCA themselves. And so they can be a good fit. But they need to have a shared vision, as in, I'm happy for you to go on your own, and I'm happy for you to do this part-time. So that's a big one. Now, The other thing I've put down here is be prepared that if you're self part-time, don't expect anybody to give you full-time attention, if any attention at all. And I think this is the hard one that people get wrong, is very few. It can happen. There'll be people watching this will go, yeah, but if someone's only going to can't fully commit to something because their lifestyle is that way, and I completely get that. Like, we've all had those things. Me doing this career now as a marketing and business coach and a sales coach for mortgage brokers and mortgage industry experts, this was a side hustle while I was a broker. We've all done it. This is how I got into this. This is my full-time job now, like has been for 5 years. But it was a side hustle I did in the evenings for a long time. So it very much is doable, but don't expect them to give you full-time training, because it's just not worth it for them financially, unless you have a desire to move across. They're not going to do it. And so be prepared to get less attention, and be prepared, by the way, to generate a lot of your own leads. In fact, probably all of them. Again, they're going to give it to their full-time team over you. It's just the way it works. If you're full-time, they're most likely going to prioritize you more than part-time. So it just is important to know. Don't feel victim about it. Don't go, oh, poor me. Just literally understand that is the hand, the cards you've been dealt. You've chosen not to go all in at this point. It's fine. You can do really well, but just remember that's the case. You're going to have to learn to self-gen. Under no circumstances, buy leads. Under no circumstances. This is a fast way for you to lose a lot of money. Buying leads can snowball to thousands of pounds a month very quickly. And to make it work, usually it's firms like Unbiased that can make it work. You've got to be putting in a lot of money to get the money out. It's absolutely fine, but it's a zero-sum game if you're trying to build your brand long-term. Really not a good idea. So that is a big one to watch. And then be prepared as well for, I've got 2 more points I want to say on this. So be prepared as well to be able to take a lower level of commission, most likely, again, because it's high risk for these people. They don't know if you're in it. So you're probably going to get a 50-50 split if you're self-employed. Now, these splits can go up to 80-20, or not so much, sometimes 80-20. They go up to about 85-15 when you go on your own completely to a network. But many networks probably won't take you, especially without CAS. But if you're under a firm and you're doing well, you can get some of those things under a firm. Can be 70-30 split. It can be a 65 kind of 65-35 split. You might have that kind of range. But on a part-time, I'd be very shocked if you'd get more. Some will. There's always going to be outliers. But I'd be quite shocked if you're going to get better than 50%, because there will be a lower commission level because there's more risk for them. What normally happens with a lot of these things is that they might do that lower level, and as you progress up, they'll increase that up. So that's a big one to point out, is that. And then the final one. So my final bit would be that, and my final kind of summary of this is that if you want to go on your own, it can be definitely possible, but it's going to be hard. And you want to go all in as much as you can, and be prepared that you're going to sacrifice a lot of stuff going that way. And actually, if this is something you want to do, if you see this as the thing you're going to do in your career long term. In fact, sorry, I just remembered the last point. The other point was, when you start doing advice, don't be mismatching with your service. I was thinking, there was one in my head I remember. Don't be mismatching with your service, meaning charge fees, charge the same level of service to everybody. That's what you should always do when you first start out, and don't be lenient on it just because you're part-time and you want to make a bit of income, because that will make a massive like spaghetti headphone. You know, when you get your headphones in your pocket and you like used to get them out. They're obviously all like AirPods now, but if you used to have the ones that all wire up, and you'd be a nightmare and you'd have to try and unwire them. Like, this is the same thing, is that if you're charging some people fees, some people not, and all that stuff, it's going to be a disaster, an absolute disaster for you. So you want to make sure your level of service is very clear in what you're doing. And the other thing I would point out, I would definitely say, got another one comes to my head, is that if you are going part-time and you want to make this viable in regards to making good income from it, sell insurance on every single one, because that will make it significantly better, significantly financially better. To put into context, the money is in insurance. One of my clients writes about 150 grand a year as a mortgage. With insurance, he writes about 500 grand a year with insurance. So it is a mad amount of money that's available for him as a one-man band with insurance. We strip insurance from it. he's brilliant at selling insurance, and with it that way, he's making 150, which is really good, but it's a lot less than $500,000. So if you could have you're like part-time, you want to make sure this is a viable job for you. You want to hit those income levels, get really good at maximizing each person with that value. And as I said about the service, do not give people different deals, because as time goes on, they're going to refer and recommend you, and they're going to recommend what you did for them and how much you charge them. So if you're like, oh, I gave that person a friends and family discount, and that person, before long, you'll be a no fee charging broker. And then it becomes very hard for you to go on your own, because that's how you'll make your money up front, because it can take 3 to 6 months before you get paid from the lender. So you need those fees in order to get money. So the runway becomes it, whereas the fees become yours and you get them as soon as they pay them. So you do really want to be careful with that. So my advice, like I said, to go back onto that one, was go all in as fast as you can. It's very doable, but it's going to be hard. And I would definitely say that if it is something you want to go full time in, and it's not just a part-time thing, then it's worth doing. If it's something you think, I'm just going to do this part-time alongside my career and I'll run the two, I wouldn't bother. I really wouldn't bother. It's very hard to do it and make it successful and have other people be interested in what you want to do. They just won't take you seriously, and which is long. If it's like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to go long term, they're great with it. They'll take you seriously completely. But if you're like, I'm only just want to do it part time, do a couple of mortgages on the side while I do my career in whatever I'm in, HR, they will go. Most people will turn a blind eye to it. They'll be like, not blind, the most people will turn away from it. They'll be like, I'm not interested, because they're interested in growing their business and they don't want part-time people. So it makes sense on my behalf. But hopefully that answers your question. It's a little bit negative, but it's not supposed to be negative. It's a positive answer. If you have any questions, anyone else got any questions you'd like answered on this show, drop them in the comment, say, can you make a video on this? And I will make a video on it if it's something I can talk about. And yeah, I'm happy to do that. I know this is now being shared in all different groups. As I said, my desire to help CMAP training people is purely out of complete transparency. I've got nothing to sell you here. I think that the information needs to be out there and no one's really talking about it. So I'm more than happy to start talking about it and answering those questions for you on this channel. And then my other content on this channel is helping people grow their businesses. So hopefully you'll share it with people and share it with your friends and people in your groups, like Zach, for example, this question has done. And then it will help me spread the word and help more people. And then over time, eventually one day in the distant future, once you're qualified and you're making your 6-figure business, you're going to come to me for coaching and we can take it to the next level. So that's the reason why I do this. So anyway, peace, love, and I'll see you guys in the next video.